Some of these films got directors blacklisted. One was so intense Bong Joon-ho literally cried watching it. And another made him want to become a filmmaker in the first place. These are the 16 films he says you have to see. Bong Joon-ho loves a character-driven movie, and for him, Nashville is the best of them all. He once said, "There have been many tapestry films, including Altman's own Short Cuts and Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia. But I believe Nashville will always be the best in the class." And yeah, tapestry film is the perfect way to describe this one. It's got 24 different characters, all tangled up in the country music scene, leading up to a political rally. Altman basically let the actors live in their roles. Most of them improvised, stayed in character for months, and even wrote and performed their own songs. And it worked. The film scored 11 Golden Globe nominations, still a record for a single movie. Last year's Emilia Perez came close with 10 nominations. Bong also has a deep appreciation for Medium Cool, Haskell Wexler's film about a TV news reporter caught up in the violence of the 1968 Democratic National Convention. It's one of those movies that feels dangerous. Part drama, part documentary, with real footage of protests and police crackdowns mixed right into the story. When it came out in '69, critics loved it. Roger Ebert, Gene Siskel, they both called it a masterpiece. But audiences, not so much. It was rated X, not because of extreme content, but, according to Wexler, because the MPAA didn't like its politics. Eventually, it got re-rated R. But by then, the damage was done. It took decades for people to recognize it as one of the most important films of the new Hollywood era. And Bong was such a fan that he used to own the DVD, until Park Chan-wook borrowed it and apparently never gave it back. Bong told Vanity Fair that John Sturgis's masterwork was a childhood favorite of his, and that he has a dream one day to direct a big action movie in the same vein. Obviously, this isn't a totally accurate war film. It's Hollywoodized, it's got that Steve McQueen cool factor, but some of it is real. The filmmakers brought in Wally Floody, the actual Tunnel King from the real-life Escape, as a consultant. Several cast members were actual prisoners of war. Donald Pleasance was held in a German camp, Hans Messemer in a Russian one, and a few others in American prison camps. Pleasance even said the film's set was eerily accurate to what the camps really looked like. Ari Aster's debut film became a massive horror hit, pulling in over $87 million on a $10 million budget. But beyond the numbers, this thing was relentless. It's not just a scary movie. It's a slow, psychological breakdown, disguised as one. And Bong summed it up perfectly when he wrote the introduction for its official screenplay book. He said Aster goes beyond the trappings of genre and delivers true, profound horror, a horror that is primal and inescapable. And it's true. This is a movie that doesn't rely on jump scares or cheap tricks. It digs under your skin and stays there. Toni Collette even called Aster the most prepared director she's ever worked with, saying he practically had the entire film shot and edited in his head 2 years before they even started rolling. For Bong, The 400 Blows isn't just a great debut, it's the greatest feature film debut in cinema history. That's how much he respects François Truffaut's first film. And honestly, hard to argue with him. This movie defined the French New Wave. It follows Antoine, a restless, rebellious kid growing up in Paris, skipping school, running away from home, constantly clashing with his parents and teachers. The film captures childhood in a way few movies ever have. There's humor, warmth, mischief, but it all leads to that ending, one of the most unforgettable in film history. Martin Scorsese even put The 400 Blows on his list of essential foreign films for young filmmakers. Bong has nothing but respect for Fanny and Alexander, calling it the most beautiful ending to a feature film career in the history of cinema. And yeah, if you're going to go out on a high note, this is how you do it. Ingmar Bergman originally made Fanny and Alexander as a 5-hour, 48-minute miniseries, but the shorter, 188-minute theatrical cut is what Bong loves the most. Bergman himself preferred the full version. In paring it down to exhibitable length, Bergman said he had to cut into the nerves and lifeblood of the film. This was the biggest, most expensive Swedish film ever made at the time. Over 1,200 extras, 60 speaking roles, a $6 million budget. It won 4 Oscars, including Best Foreign Language Film and Best Cinematography. Bong Joon-ho loves Scorsese. When he won Best Director for Parasite, Scorsese was right there in the same category for The Irishman, and Bong has never been shy about how much the guy influenced him. He's even got Raging Bull listed on his Sight and Sound poll of the greatest films ever made. For Bong, this isn't just a beautifully shot, masterfully edited black and white boxing movie. It's something deeper. He once said, "It is a very unique portrait of one man. From one perspective, he's a disgusting person. He's contradictory and problematic. It's a portrait of human complexities and weakness. I think it's the most honest portrayal of the conflicts and complexities of one man." Bong is also a huge fan of Mike Leigh. He once put Life is Sweet on his Criterion Top 10, saying, "The actors and characters in Mike Leigh's films are always shockingly vivid and alive." And yeah, Life is Sweet is one of those movies that feels real in a way that most movies don't. It's about a working-class family in suburban London, just trying to get through their day-to-day struggles. Alison Steadman and Jim Broadbent play the parents, Claire Skinner and Jane Horrocks play their completely opposite twin daughters, and every single performance just feels lived in. The crazy thing, this is actually Mike Leigh's least favorite of his own films. But critics loved it. It was named the best film of 1992 by the National Society of Film Critics, and Horrocks even won a Best Supporting Actress award. Bong's always admired Nicholas Roeg, and The Man Who Fell to Earth is a big one for him. He once said, "Nicholas Roeg's films never cease to be fresh and youthful." And this movie is Roeg at his absolute strangest. You've got David Bowie playing an alien who crash lands on Earth, hoping to find water to save his dying planet. At the time, critics weren't quite sure what to make of it. Barry Diller at Paramount refused to pay for it after seeing the final cut, saying it wasn't the movie the studio wanted. British Lion sued, the film barely got a US release, and it only just made its money back through foreign sales. But Bowie had no regrets. He once said in Rolling Stone, "I'm so pleased I made that movie, but I didn't really know what was being made at all." He later admitted he pretty much just played himself, throwing his real personality into the role. And according to Roeg, Bowie was a total professional, always on time, completely focused, and absolutely perfect for the part. Rushmore was the movie that really introduced the world to Wes Anderson. It's got Jason Schwartzman in his very first acting role as Max Fisher, an overly ambitious high school kid who somehow finds himself in a love triangle with Bill Murray's character and a schoolteacher played by Olivia Williams. This was also the movie that kicked off the whole Bill Murray-Wes Anderson collaboration. Murray loved the script so much that he said he would have done it for free. Bong Joon-ho put Rushmore on his Criterion Top 10, saying, "Wes Anderson's films are delightfully strange and endearing." Bong Joon-ho loves the Mad Max movies, specifically The Road Warrior. He's seen it more than 20 times. But that doesn't mean he wasn't completely blown away by Fury Road 2. In an interview, he said he actually cried watching it. That moment when the cars get swallowed up by the sandstorm, the music swells, and the whole sequence just escalates. He said it felt like his soul was escalating with it. He called it a film you just watch without saying anything. It's a master at work. If you want to know which film shaped Bong's entire approach to filmmaking, Cure is way up there. He actually called it one of the most influential films of his career. This is Kiyoshi Kurosawa's 1997 psychological crime thriller. And it's one of those movies that doesn't just scare you, it gets under your skin. It's about a detective investigating a series of brutal murders, all committed by different people who have no memory of doing it. Bong said that watching Cure gives you this slow, creeping sense of horror that just trickles down your spine. And if you've seen Memories of Murder, you can definitely see the influence. Even Martin Scorsese once said, Cure was Kiyoshi Kurosawa's most terrifying movie. And coming from Scorsese, that's saying something. Bong winning the Oscar for Parasite in 2020 was already a huge moment. But the fact that he was nominated alongside two of his biggest inspirations, Scorsese and Tarantino, made it even crazier. He actually thanked Tarantino in his speech for always hyping up his movies in interviews, and the admiration goes both ways because Bong has been a Tarantino fan since his film school days. At his school, there was a screening room right next to his lecture hall, and he used to sneak out of class and go straight into the theater to watch movies. And one of the films that completely shocked him was Pulp Fiction. He was floored by how sharp and unpredictable the screenplay was. It was one of those movies that just stuck with him. And now he and Tarantino run into each other all the time at industry events. Imagine being a student sneaking off to watch Pulp Fiction, and then 25 years later, you're standing on the Oscar stage thanking Tarantino in your acceptance speech. Full circle. If you've seen Parasite, you have to watch The Housemaid. Bong Joon-ho has said over and over how much this film influenced him, and if you look at it, yeah, it's obvious. Almost the entire movie takes place inside a house, and it's all about class tension, power struggles, and a housemaid who turns everything upside down. Sound familiar? The plot follows a composer and his wife, whose lives completely unravel when their new housemaid becomes way more than they bargained for. Bong once said, "It deals with women's sexual desires and Korean society at the time, and the changing social classes. It does a great job depicting that." And get this, the actress who played the housemaid, Yoon Lee, this was her first and only film. The public hated her character so much that no director ever hired her again. Bong Joon-ho was all over Uncut Gems when it came out, called it one of the best movies of the year, praised its energetic style, and even said he'd love to work with Adam Sandler someday. Sandler plays a gambling addict in a full-on downward spiral, desperately trying to stay ahead of the people he owes money to. The whole thing is just pure anxiety. From the very first scene, you feel like you're running on adrenaline, and it never lets up. And of course, the Safdie brothers made sure every line of dialogue was packed with profanity. 560 uses of the word fuck, which, yes, puts it in the top 5 of all time. The weird thing is, even though this was clearly one of Sandler's best performances, the Oscars just completely ignored it. No nomination, nothing. But commercially, it was a success. Another A24 hit, $50 million at the box office off a $19 million budget. This one is personal for Bong. He said before that The Wages of Fear was one of 2 movies that made him want to become a director. The other was Psycho. The movie is pure tension. It's about 4 guys driving trucks loaded with nitroglycerin across dangerous terrain to stop an oil fire. And this isn't some overlooked cult film. This thing won both the Golden Bear at Berlin and the Palme d'Or at Cannes. In 1977, William Friedkin remade it as Sorcerer, which Stephen King has called his favorite movie of all time. But Sorcerer had a little problem: Star Wars. It came out right after George Lucas changed cinema forever, and of course it bombed. But Bong still swears by the original. He said, "When I was 9, I watched Psycho and watched The Wages of Fear. I wanted to become someone behind the camera ever since then.